The Case for Universal Healthcare, written by K. Ping Chu and Jack Ruthers in 2005-06 and AMSA.org, quotes, over the past few decades, the United States has witnessed skyrocketing healthcare costs. Health insurance premiums have been rising on average by double-digit percentage points over the past 5 years, a rate of increase that is 2 to 3 times the rate of inflation. Because of these out-of-control healthcare costs, there has been a steep rise in the number of uninsured Americans. Currently, more than 45 million Americans lack any form of health insurance, and millions more are underinsured. They have insurance but lack adequate financial protection from healthcare costs. In the face of rising healthcare costs, fewer employers are able to provide their workers with health insurance. The percentage of employers offering health insurance dropped from 69% in 2000 to 60% in 2005. The United States is the only industrialized nation that does not have some form of universal health care, defined as a basic guarantee of health care to all its citizens. While other countries have declared health care to be a basic right, the United States treats health care as a privilege only available to those who can afford it. As a result of these difficulties assessing health care, the Non-Participant Institute of Medicine estimates that the uninsured have an excess annual mortality rate of 25%. This increased mortality translates into 18,000 excess deaths for people between age 25 to 64 per year, which is comparable magnitude to the number of people in this age group who die each year from diabetes, stroke, HIV, and homicide. The suffering caused by uninsurance goes far beyond the purely physical suffering experienced by uninsured individuals. Emotionally, uninsurance contributes to anxiety, family stress, depression, and fear. Financially, medical costs are a major cause of personal bankruptcy. Even without bankruptcy, the financial strain on families can be significant and potentially strenuous. On to my contention one of my debate. Healthcare delivery in the United States is widely fragmented. Fragmented means existing or functioning as though broken into separate parts. Disorganized, disunified. As a result, average cost is higher than it otherwise needs to be. When you review countless industries in the United States, what you come to realize is that most every industry is dominated by just a few payers. In the auto business, it is General Motors and Ford. Home improvement is Home Depot and Lowe's. Groceries, Target and Walmart. Technology, Apple, Microsoft. The list goes on. Therefore, if the government is providing the care and therefore the associated costs are borne by a single payer, its aggregation of purchasing power drives overall costs down. This is true in industry and is almost solely the reason for only a few major payers in each industry because they gain for purchasing power due to their size. The same would be true in healthcare. If I were to buy 100 syringes, I may pay $1 a piece. If the manufacturer was to sell me 10,000 syringes, I may pay 50 cents. This is an economic fact and has been proven throughout history. There is no reason to believe that fundamental principle will change the nationalized healthcare. On to my first subpoint. What are the costs of not achieving universal healthcare? Fewer years of participation in the workforce. The annual cost of diminished health and shorter lifespans of Americans without insurance is $65 to $130 billion. People who do not live as long do not work and contribute to the economy as long. For Medicare, the reason is that people who are uninsured have poor health, and this poor health translates into higher expenses once they become enrolled in Medicare. Lower health care delivery capacity. Communities with high levels of uninsurance tend to have a lower health care delivery capacity as providers burdened by the costs of uncompensated care reduce staff, relocate, or even close. Impaired access to emergency departments. Access to ER is impaired for both uninsured and insured individuals in communities with high rates of uninsurance. The reason is twofold. Emergency departments burdened by uncompensated care costs close down or reduce capacity, and uninsured individuals who have nowhere else to turn to for primary care overcrowd ERs. On to my subpoint 2. What does the American dream mean to people? In May of 2005, a representative group of 1,000 participants was asked to define what the American dream means to them. The 3 responses that scored highest were having a close family, having the freedom to make decisions about your life, and being able to provide for yourself and your family. In a follow-up question, the participants were asked what they felt was the main threat to the American dream. By far, the response that scored highest was health insurance that is too expensive. Above the expensive college education, the quality of public schools, the loss of security in retirement, and the threat of terrorist attack, American values as they relate to universal health care, Americans believe in equal opportunity. Yet, in the current situation, those who do not have health care are at risk for financial ruin and poorer health, both of which disadvantage them in society and thereby do not give them equal opportunity. Education is guaranteed in America in part to further the ideal of equal opportunity, but health care is not treated in the same way. The Declaration of Independence states that there are certain inalienable rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If Americans believe in an inalienable right to life, how can we tolerate a system that denies people life-saving medications and treatments? Similarly, if Americans believe in an inalienable right to the pursuit of happiness, how can we allow millions of dreams to be smashed by the financial and physical consequences of uninsurance? On to my contention 2 of my debate. Contrary to the widely held perception that national health care diminishes care and increases costs, that is simply not true. As an example, if someone becomes sick and simply needs an antibiotic, if they are covered, they are very likely to go to their primary care physician for an average cost of $83 a visit. In contrast, if they are ill but do not have insurance, they are very likely to not see the doctor. Ultimately, as is often the case, they find themselves in the emergency room. In this case, the cost can be 10 to 20 times more than had the person simply been treated by their primary care physician. In the end, by keeping the population healthy, the overall cost of the uninsured goes down. Said another way, our current policy is to treat the uninsured when they walk into the emergency room. Thus, if we're covering them anyways, why would we not provide them the nationalized insurance so that we still cover them, but ultimately at a lower cost due to a more efficient delivery of healthcare services, etc.? The doctor's office versus the emergency room. On to my subpoint 1. Comparing Swiss health indexers to ours, Ezra Klein, who is the advocate of the Swiss system for many of the same reasons that Krugman was, nonetheless says the example of the Swiss system shows A, that the consumer-driven model doesn't work to control costs, and B, the irrelevancy of the argument over whether individuals are consumers at all. Ezra points out the Swiss health expenditures per capita are the second highest in the world and cites this fact as an argument for why consumer-driven healthcare won't reduce health costs. Government spending on healthcare in Switzerland is only 2.7% of the gross domestic product, by far the lowest in the developed world. By contrast, in 2008, U.S. government spending on healthcare was 7.4% of gross domestic product. If the U.S. could move its state health spending to Swiss levels, it would save more than $700 billion a year. The Swiss have access to the latest technology just as Americans do, and with comparable low wait times for appointments and procedures. Subpoint 2. Swiss citizens buy insurance for themselves. There are no employer-sponsored or government-run insurance programs. Hence, insurance prices are transparent to the beneficiary. The government defines the minimum benefit package that qualifies for the mandate. Critically, all packages require beneficiaries to pick up a portion of the cost of their care. The government subsidizes health care for the poor on a graduated basis with the goal of preventing individuals from spending more than 10% of their income to insurance. 99.5% of Swiss citizens have health insurance because they can choose between plans from nearly 100 different private insurance companies. Insurers must compete on price and service, helping to curb health care inflation. Indeed, the fact that both liberals and conservatives would find objectionable elements to Switzerland is a large part of its appeal. It achieves the policy priorities of liberals and of conservatives. It goes without saying that evolving the American healthcare system into the Swiss one is no small task, but Switzerland helps us visualize the direction that American reform should take. It provides a real-world example of how such reforms would work out.